terminations, like how many people have
Hmm.
left and involuntary in the same way, and
Correct.
the overall turnover in a year, and what is the cost of absenteeism or cost of the each and every department. We can measure it with the help of the metrics.
Correct. So you're already aware of, of most of the HR metrics which are there. Uh, Now you will better understand it, how you can use, all these metrics for your benefit, for your benefit as well as for the organization's benefit where you are working in, right? So next, just jump on to headcount and growth KPIs. So headcount metrics is basically that shows the size and growth of the workforce. So headcount is basically how many people are there in an organization, right? And HR uses these metrics for the budgeting, hiring plan, and organization structure. So when I say budgeting, so budgeting is um, so there are going to be their performance reviews, their salary appraisals. What is the budget which is required for these many people, right? There are going to be bonuses paid for these to these people after a year. What is the budget for that? So if we have correct count, we should be able to do the budgeting, right? Next is how much training cost will be there. So if we know how many people are there, then we should be able to figure out that as well. How does our hiring plan looks like? We already have these many people within the organization who have these many skills. Now how should I further hiring plan looks like? How many open positions we have, and against which how many people do we already have, and how many we need to be hiring? So it will help you to better plan it out, right? Organization structuring. So, for example, startup grows from 100 employees to 150 employees within 1 year, which shows how much workforce growth rate.
So it's from 100 to 150, right?
Correct.
It's 50%.
Correct. So
Okay.
it clearly says it's the 50% workforce growth rate, right? Next is, let me give you one more example. So if one manager handle 30 employees while another handle 8 employees, HR, what will HR do in such case, right? So HR may review the workload balance and also review the organization design. So when we say organization design, like, what is a fair distribution of reporting structure? Is it good that, to one manager 30 employees are reporting, and to another manager only eight are reporting? Is it a fair distribution of workload? So there HR do the analysis. So these are the metrics that you basically takes care of and look into it. So you will basically look at the closing headcount, which is the total active employees at the end of the period. Then net growth, how much we have grown, that is the growth rate, right? So new hires minus the terminations or the leavers, how many people left, right? Average tenure. So average tenure of for any employee is like time since hired for active employees. So since the time, so did you ever actually calculate the tenure for any employee, like for how long they are into the system?
Yes.
Okay, so you're already familiar with that term, right? Next is FTE ratio. FTE is full-time equivalent calculation with respect to the part-timers. So there are two types of people. One is full-time equivalent, who gets the salary, who gets all the benefits, who are like full-time employees within the organization. And there are certain part-timers who are not eligible for the statutory benefits, but still working within the organization on part-time basis, right? So what is that ratio? So these are the metrics that will help you to basically. So purpose of headcount and growth KPIs is to help the organization plan expansion and resource allocation. When it comes to, somewhere, if your manager is talking about the expansion or resource allocation, these are the KPIs that you should be tracking on, or these are the metrics that you should be looking after?
Ruchi, I have a doubt.
Yes,
So you have given an example that one of the manager is having 30 and another is having 8.
correct, correct.
So I think it totally depends upon the nature of project or the kind of technology or skill set they are using as well, right? If we try to move few of the employees, which is having overloaded, like one A manager is having 30 employees under him, and B is having 8. If we try to move as well, what if their teams have a different project and their skill set are different, and the manpower needs A is 30, which is the capacity to fulfill the requirements of the client, and in the same way B is handling a project where they don't need that much of employees under him. And I think the manager who handles a bigger team will always be a bit more compensated, right? In that case, if I'm not wrong, I just wanted to
So
understand.
you're correct. So you're correct. So what is, as per your understanding, you're very correct. Until and unless it is not creating any issue. But let's suppose if this is creating issue where one of the manager is feeling overburdened, right, and the other manager is feeling is not raising any concern because already handling just 8 employees. Very correctly said that it depends on the nature of the work, it depends on the nature of the project, it depends on the nature of the department. But when the department is same, you're handling same sort of projects, but still
Correct.
you have unfair distribution of the employees. So that this is what this example is all about.
Correct. Got it. Got it.
Correct.
Done.
Okay, so let's move on to next, which is attrition analysis. So you guys are already aware what exactly the attrition means. So how many people leave, left in a particular period, right? So this is all about that. Why it matters? Why attrition analysis matters? So hiring attrition increases high attrition increases hiring cost. When you have high attrition, let's suppose you have attrition more than 20%, which is the standard benchmarking. If you have more attrition than 20%, it will lead to hiring cost. It will lead to unfair workload distribution. It will lead to productivity loss also, and in short, it will lead to business loss. So it's very important. This is one of the major metrics that every HR should track, whether your management wants it or not, because this plays a very important role. And you can save a lot of money when you track this particular metrics. So attrition analysis helps the organization understand why employee leave. And high turnover can affect the productivity, customer experience, and morale, right? So let me give you some examples. There is a BPO company which discovers 35% attrition among night shift employees due to burnout. Now, what do you think HR should propose in this case?
Since the data says that it's due to burnout, I would say that we should either compensate for it, like maybe give some extra leave or something like that.
Okay. Any other answer to it?
So you have mentioned the people who is working night shift is a group of employees
Correct.
facing burnout. Maybe
Correct.
we can understand like the reason behind it. We can collectively collect the feedback, the
Hmm.
reason, either
Hmm.
the nature of the work, the
Hmm.
manager, or a set of employees, or else the subordinates which they are working with, or else
Hmm.
the timings.
Hmm.
Obviously, there will be a set of compensation which will be given
Hmm.
for the extra shift allowance for the people who is working in a night
Hmm.
shift. That's
Hmm.
pretty sure. If
So,
that is okay.
okay. Okay. Continue. Then I will jump in.
That is also not making them feel satisfied and feeling burned out. Maybe the
Hmm.
collective feedback will help us to figure out to find out the better solutions, and we can
Hmm.
migrate the employees from one team to another team and switch with the
Hmm.
common basic skill set what they have with.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Correct. Correct. So this is true that you will understand the reason, you will talk to people, you will find out why the burnout is happening. So this is one of the thing where you will diagnose the problem, right? Now, and when it comes to the suggest corrective actions that you should be coming with, when it comes to, when I mentioned night shift employees, they feel burnout, then HR should be introducing the rotational shifts, right? Or introducing the wellness programs. So it helps people to calm their mind, to help them out with their with their mental state, or why they are how to overcome with this burnout situation, which will basically help the reduction in the attrition, right? So once you analyze that, you will come up with the solutions, corrective actions. So that's how it helps you. So another important metrics in early attrition is employee leaving within the 6 to 12 months. So this is also one of the important metrics that one should be analyzing while you're working as an HR. When it comes to the formula is very easy. Formula says in numerator, you should have the number of people left in a particular period. So let's suppose if somebody asks you, or you are calculating the attrition rate for a particular quarter. So what you would do, how many people left in that particular quarter? So when I say quarter, let's suppose the quarter is Q1, which is Jan, Feb, March. How many people left in these 3 months divided by the average head count during that period. So average head count is basically the head count in the beginning of the period, and the end of the period. You will calculate the average of it, and you multiply it by 100. That's how you will calculate the attrition. Now, I think Bhavishya, you are the one who mentioned that there are two types of attrition: voluntary and involuntary,
Sakshi.
right?
Mentioned.
Sakshi. Okay. So voluntary attrition is where an employee chooses to resign. So when we basically takes care of the attrition data, so there are different views, and we will understand it in depth in the upcoming modules. Here I will just give you a brief understanding how it works, how it looks like. So we basically analyze two major metrics. One is voluntary, where employee decides to leave, and second is involuntary, where company chooses to terminate. It could be because of performance issue, it could be because of layoffs, it could be because of any policy breach, anything, right? So these are the two type of attritions. Once you calculate that, and then you will understand which one is impacting in a better way, and how you should overcome that. So this is all about the attrition analysis formula. Any questions so far? Okay, just give me a second. Let me just plug in the charger of my laptop. Okay, let's move on to next which is recruitment success metrics. And I believe this is the most favorite topic for most of the people, because everyone talks about the recruitment a lot, right? Is there anyone whose recruitment is favorite here?
Yes, mine.
Okay, great. So, recruitment success metrics, where you can see, all these metrics. There is more to it, because there are a lot of other metrics when you go in depth of recruitment success metrics. So these metrics basically measure the recruitment effectiveness, how effective your recruitment is. And it also helps with the long-term hiring timelines, which can lead to project delays or business loss. Uh, Let me give you some real world examples. So let's suppose an IT company reduces time to hire from 45 days to 25 days by automating resume screening and interview scheduling. So how they did that? So first they evaluated their time to hire metrics, right? Earlier it was 45 days, which they felt that it is very long, it should be reduced to 25 days. So next, the corrective action that they came up with is they automated some of the processes, which really helped them, and which really cut short their hiring cost, right? Another example is, if hiring costs are very high for one role, then HR may shift to employee referrals or campus hiring to optimize the cost, right? So what will happen, like, let's suppose there is a role of senior software developer, right? And the hiring cost is really very high. So how HR can intervene in such case, that they can come up with an initiative of, let's have an employee referral program, or let's just hire somebody from a third party, right? So that's how you can optimize or save the cost there. So some of the metrics which are there for recruitment is time to hire, which is basically the days from the application to the offer accepted. And as per the targeted benchmarking, it should be between 30 to 45 days, less than 30 to 45 days. Next is cost per hire. So it is all about total spend, total cost divided by the total hires. This is again the industry specific. There is no certain benchmarking for that. Offer ratio, which is percentage of offer accepted by the candidates out of total offer released, and it should always be greater than 85%, which is the targeted benchmarking. Source of quality, so the performance scores of hires by the source. So let's suppose you hired somebody from the LinkedIn, how is their performance score as compared to the somebody who has been hired from the Naukri? So that's how you will analyze the source or for the hiring quality, right? High quality scores helps the better, which basically helps the business in a better way. So this is all about the recruitment success metrics. Any questions, any doubts from this particular topic?
So, Ruchi, I have a doubt.
Yes.
In the offer ratio, will always be coming under the metrics of recruitment in terms of
Correct.
candidates accepting the offer. Okay.
Correct.
So, in few of the companies, it will be happening like the interview process will go for 2 months or
Hmm.
1.5 month.
Hmm.
Between the candidates will obviously get an offer from other companies in this process, and
Correct.
at the last minute they'll see what they are going to get an offer from the companies. They'll always play around with the counter offers and shop around, right?
Correct.
So in
Correct.
that cases, if the offer is getting delayed from the company side in terms of getting an approval, getting a signature from the higher authorities and leadership team,
Hmm.
and the recruitment process is getting delayed or a bit long because of the technical things and more in depth about the technologies what they wanted to
Hmm.
interview, analyze, and check with the peers to take it ahead with the candidature of a
Hmm.
particular person ahead
Hmm.
or not. So in that case, if we know the root causes because of the delay process what the company is having, and we are not able to achieve any of the time this 85% or 80%, in
Hmm.
that cases, what will be the better option for us to check
So
this?
so in that case, you're already aware that this is the target that you had. You're not able to meet it because these are the challenges. So your approach should be to overcome with these challenges first. So you have the data, you can present the data to the leadership why it is happening. So what happens most of the time, what I have seen in my experience, that recruiters are not very hands-on with the metrics. They don't really maintain the metrics in a very well way that can help the leadership to understand the challenges. And you can very well tell these challenges with the help of this data, and you can tell them, oh, this will really impact the other metrics also, and we will not be able to accomplish it if we will not correct this. So that's how you will understand, like, you have the data, you portray it to the leadership in a very well, framed it in a very well way, so that you get the help, and you are in a position which is a win-win situation for you, because you already have everything in place. So it's not like that you get a solution right away. Of course, the leadership will sit over it, think about what should be done. They may, increase your time to hire, or they may increase your other targets based on that, and then simultaneously resolve the challenges which you are facing to achieve this target.
Maybe
So
they
that's how your approach should be.
got it. Maybe they'll be taking a prompt action, or
Correct.
maybe they will understand that the kind of industry what they're dealing with will face these kind of issues.
Correct.
And there might be the different benchmarks they have to set it so that unrealistic expectations might not be there in their
Correct.
mindset as well.
Correct.
Got it.
Correct. So what you quoted is, very much related to how it works into the recruitment, and I have seen recruiters juggling with this particular thing, that oh, this candidate dropped out because of this reason. But at the same time, when management ask about their recruitment dashboard, they are not tracking this particular metrics. So they have somewhere their data, but it's not presented really well, so that leadership can connect those dots and help you out. So
Got,
that's where you can create your value, if you can depict it in such a manner.
got it. We usually face this kind of issues in our
Yes.
present organization, and I face this.
So do you tell them in the terms of the metrics, like,
Yeah,
this is.
as it's a startup, we don't have such a metric system when it comes to the recruitment and everything. It's an
Hmm,
in-house thing. So it totally depends on the leadership team. If they want to hire someone, they'll be
hmm,
helping us with the particular JD and the source which we can use,
hmm,
with the vendors, referrals,
hmm,
campaign connects. So based
hmm,
on that, we will be working with it. We don't have
hmm,
a huge HR team. We have only
hmm,
two people who is
hmm,
working proactively. So
hmm,
we have never faced a situation that they are asking why there is a low conversion, why there is
hmm,
attrition, those kind
hmm,
of stuff. Because
hmm.
they are totally now focused in increasing their business size and taking the business in the vast regions. So it
Correct.
has been grown, and they're thinking, and the attrition rate is also a bit low. So I don't think till now we got a situation that we have to show the metrics in terms of success and everything.
But when you tell them, when you tell the story in such a manner, they will definitely give a penny to your thought. So let me give you, what happened with me. So there was this, COVID time, when every organization was working remotely. So during that, we were hiring people, and we hired 20 people, in a particular quarter. But we observed somewhere, I know it, because as their Spock from day one, I knew that their time to productivity, because I have that analytical mindset, I was tracking this metrics. The time to productivity was very long. It was, somewhere between 6 months, more than 6 months. um, the reason, somewhere everybody knows that, people were not getting the laptops on time when they were joining, but how much delay is there, no one was tracking it. And I was the one, as a HR person, nobody asked me to do that, but I, as a HR person, was tracking it. And then I presented that data to my management, and it just opened their eyes so wide that, they got to know that once a person is joining the organization, they are getting the laptop from the organization after an average of 30 days. So
Which is
let's suppose for
almost
1 month
a month
that
of
person is
salary.
sitting idle.
Got it.
Sorry, someone is saying.
Which is almost a month of salary the company is giving up
Correct.
in the
Correct.
production.
It's a loss for the organization. Nobody asked me to do that, but as a HR person, where I know that, this is, I should be tracking, and that's how I should be telling the leadership. And then very next moment, they looked up at this challenge, they took up this challenge and resolved it. And before that, it was all in the air. Everybody was throwing that ball into each other's court. IT was telling it is the admin's responsibility. Admin was telling, I don't have permission, proper rights to order the asset. I don't know how to do it. I am depend on this person, that person. And then very next day, when this data was presented, everything was sorted out, and it was so easy,
Yes, yes, got it.
right?
maybe we always make this kind of master sheet like the office stage candidates who have cleared all the technical rounds, and we keep a filter like the candidate have backed out, the
Hmm.
offer got delayed
Hmm.
after signing the offer, the candidate got another counter offer, that is the reason the
Hmm.
candidate have backed out. To find out the reason, what is the ratio of people getting backed off because of which
Correct.
reason, so that
Correct.
we can take steps and make a turnaround time
Correct.
lesser than what we were
Correct.
expecting.
Because that's a problem for you, right? And you need to solve that problem with the help of data.
Correct, correct. And it's been very helpful when we started using this tracker.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes. So Ruchi, in which company you're working with right now?
Currently, I'm working as a freelancer because I have been shifted to Malaysia, and the Malaysian market is bit different. So it is taking time for me to explore opportunities. Moreover, I'm also thinking that what exactly I should be doing next. So I am working as a freelancer for now, but in my previous organization where I worked for 8 years, I was leading the HR function. I was leading a workforce of more than 300 people across the geography. It was an IT organization, and I worked there for long 8 years.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
How is there in Malaysia then? Your work, how different it is from India?
Malaysia is a very easy country, I would say, but at the same time, the challenge here is that they believe in localization. Localization means they prefer to give opportunity to the local talent which they have here. And if you want to establish yourself as a great HR person here, then you need to have a very super niche skill. And when you say super niche skill, either you are someone who is very outstanding with AI, or you are someone, right, who is very good with very in tool which we have right in the market is SAP Success Factors, or maybe Workday. So these are the tools where organization is migrating their HRMSs. So if you're good with that, then I may have chance to get an opportunity here. HR analytics is not very, I think organizations are still not very familiar with this concept here. So if even if I look for that opportunity, I think still it's a challenge. But the major challenge which I am facing here is, of course, beating the local talent with my skill set that I have. I have the skill, I have the right certifications, I have the knowledge, I have everything, but still I'm struggling in this new market. And I understand that being an HR person, I understand it very well that whenever you go to a new place, it takes a lot of time to establish yourself.
Correct, correct. And
Especially while I was looking into Malaysian market, in the job description it was mentioned that the person needs to be Malaysian. In
Correct.
many of it, it was mentioned like that.
Yeah. So first thing, whenever you go to a new country, you should be well versed with their labor laws. That is the first requirement. Now, I am someone who is very well versed with the Indian labor laws or statutory compliances. At the same time, though these compliances and frameworks are more or less same, but at the same time, it's very important that you should be aware, about their labor laws, because you need to work as a HR person, so you should be knowing the legalities. Other thing is you should be uh, familiar with their language. So language is also something that I should be. So I started learning this new language, which is their Malaysian language also. So it's just I am someone who love learning. I don't stop my learning at any point in time. It's not like that we are not into IT, then we don't have to upskill ourselves. Time has changed, everything has changed now. AI has taken the front seat, so each one of us should keep on learning at every stage. So your learning should not be stagnant at any point in time, and you should not be thinking, oh, you know everything, and now is the time that you should sit just like that, and whatever you're doing, you should be happy with that. So keep on learning, because HR is itself very vast. You can create your value into this world if you have right skill, if you have right competency, and of course capability also.
Would you have it also? There's a question in the field I want to ask you. Can you
Sorry,
question
Sakshi, I can't really hear you properly.
now you can hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Okay, so like being a fresher in this industry, I want to ask few things from you. Like I'm a
Yeah.
person who don't want to go in payroll. I'm not at all interested in this. But being a
Okay.
finance, my previous instructor was like, you should go in the payroll thing, or you can go. Like your
Hmm.
resume will be very fit in that thing. But I'm no not eager to go in that thing. So like when I like scroll many opportunities on the LinkedIn or Naukri, they want people who has knowledge for all the things like recruitment, talent acquisition, payrolls, attendance, and everything. Is that possible to like go in a particular field? Like if I want to go talent
Yes.
acquisition, I want to
Yes.
stick to that only field. Don't want to
Yes.
go in the payrolls and all things.
Yes, yes, yes. So it works like that. So let me help you to understand it, and let me put it in this way. If you target for a smaller organization, there it is expected from a single person to handle all the HR sub functions, right? But if you target for a mid-size or for a bigger organization, they look for a specific expert. Let's suppose you should be having expertise in talent acquisition, or you should be having expertise into L&D. You should be having expertise into employee engagement or talent management. So it's not, they never look for a HR journalist kind of role. They always look for a particular expert for a particular sub function of HR. So yes, you have all the doors open for that. You can, very well go in any of the if you want to have that expertise, you very well go in that particular domain which you really love. But to start with, I would suggest you that you get a flavor of every subfunction of HR, so that you get understanding about it, and then you can develop your liking, what you really love. Like for me, I really love playing around with data. So even if I have 100 tasks, and if anytime my manager is coming to me and telling me, oh Ruchi, I want this dashboard or I want this report, so I used to keep all my tasks aside, and I pick up this particular thing because I used to love it. So that is something which I really loved, along with other things also which I loved. So that's how you build your preference. That's how you align yourself with the thing that you're really aspiring for. But if you don't really know about other things, when you say payroll, you don't want to do payroll. I believe you just know one thing about payroll, but compensation and benefits is itself very wide. You do a lot of analysis under that. There is a lot of data. There are different things that is being done under compensation and benefits. And once you get that flavor, once you get that understanding, you may love to work under compensation and benefits only, and you don't even think that I should be jumping onto talent acquisition. So it's better you get the knowledge of everything and then decide what you should be doing.
So thing to ask, like after completing my graduation, like being in a rat race, I did MCOM instead of MBA because at the time I wasn't aware that I have interest in HR. I was like,
Hmm.
do like what everyone around me doing. So I was not very aware about myself that time. But now after completing MCOM, I realized that I should have done MBA in HR instead of just MCOM. I wasted my 2 years in MCOM. I realized, and
Hmm.
even I see when I apply for many companies, they my profile usually very like got rejected for the reason that I don't have that qualification education in my resume, but other people is having. So it is
Hmm.
also a very kind of problem I'm facing right now. Is it possible that I like I'm not sure should I do MBA in my future, or like is it okay to continue with the MCOM degree that I currently having?
I have the same issue as Sakshi. I did masters in geology instead. Now I regret it that I must have done MBA. So, what would you say for it in this
Okay,
current scenario?
so let me tell you, academically, I am a BTech IT graduate. I have done bachelor's in technology, in information technology, and I was a very bright student. Though I didn't want to become a software engineer, I never wanted to, because I hate those black screens. I hate coding. I always hated coding, right? So what is the next thing? Then I did MBA into HR. That was a deliberate move. My father was like, why you are doing now MBA? You were so good into IT, why you're not pursuing your career into IT? It has a very good career. Then I was like, I want to do something which is opposite to my personality. So I am by nature an introvert. But being into HR, where I have to put myself out there in front of people, I have to be an extrovert. So I wanted to do that. I wanted to sound confident. I wanted to have that, aura around me. So I had my own things into my mind, what I wanted to achieve, right? And I did MBA from distance. It was not a regular one because I didn't want to waste my time. So after my BTech, I did my MBA from distance. I didn't get, honestly, that much of knowledge, didn't gain that much of knowledge from, doing this MBA. What I learned during my, journey, working as a HR professional into different size of organization, there I understood the concepts. And after working for over a decade, then I decided that I will go for a bigger certification which will help me with the core HR concepts. That is SHRM. If you would have heard about SHRM, which is Society of Human Resources, which is the biggest body of human resources, that certification I did. And prior to that, I also did HR analytics certification. So that's how, once you start working, and of course, as you are struggling with this part, so what you can do, you can start with any small setup.